Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I am the host and trainer for Office Hours, and so glad you've joined us here today. We've got a number of things to talk about in WordPress news. Looks like we have 4 questions in the queue, and we'll get to those in just a moment. So plenty of space to ask your questions today if you have them. And we'll dive right in. So let's start with our agency news, shall we? And this link, if you would like to download the slide deck, is waiting on you in the chat. It is an HTML file. And all you have to do to flip the slides is use the arrow keys on your keyboard. Just click right or left, and it'll advance you back and forth through these slides. So let's talk about what's happening in WordPress, shall we? With our weekly briefing. When I click on the thing, there we go. All right. So WordPress 7.0 is still coming on April the 9th. It is a major release, even as far as major releases go. In the past few major releases, it's been mostly about site editor and more Gutenberg type stuff. And there are some broader changes in WordPress 7.0 that even more than most other major releases probably ought to give you pause on upgrading your client sites. I would strongly recommend when WordPress 7 drops on April the 9th, just a couple of weeks away, that you would very carefully test it, because there are many things that are different in WordPress 7.0, particularly under the hood. Things like it's using an iframe now in the post and page editor, in the block editor to do things, and just a lot of changes. And particularly if you're using block plugins like Cadence or Generate Blocks or whatever, there might be some issues. Melanie's mentioning that she saw something about an issue with Cadence blocks. And yeah, like it's this, I saw that post too, if it's the same one you're referring to, Melanie. And this is a person who is running the bleeding edge beta of WordPress 7 release candidate 1, and some things aren't working, and that is to be expected. The launch hasn't happened yet. I would certainly imagine the Cadence folks will have things worked out by the time WordPress ships. But yeah, these little buggy things are expected at this point. That's why there's a long release cycle for WordPress to help plugin developers fix their issues. Now, you and I both know that many plugin developers don't do that, and they wait until the support requests come in after a major WordPress version, which is why I've said for many years, we don't upgrade typically our WordPress version until the first minor release after a major release. So when WordPress 7.0.1 rolls out is when we'll probably start considering making the changes to 7, the bump up to 7. So we are locked in for the April 9th release date. A number of things that I've highlighted here. There are other changes coming to WordPress 7, but the biggest one and the thing I'm most excited about is this new AI connector screen we've talked about for the last few office hours, so I'm not going to belabor that anymore. But right there in WordPress, you will be able to connect an API key to your favorite tool and immediately talk to WordPress right there from your favorite AI tool. It's going to be fantastic. So you'll be able to make changes, change settings and whatever. And perhaps, if you've used AI in a browser before, like I know many of you, when Perplexity released the Comet browser and you got the free year because you had PayPal or Venmo or something, and they gave you that free year, a lot of folks were using the Comet browser. And with that, like open in the WordPress admin, it can actually do things and click, but it was slow as molasses. And my anticipation is that this new direct connection into WordPress for your API tool is going to be much, much faster. I showed this last week with the new visual revisions that allow you to, and this is only in the block editor, but you can actually, with the little revision slider that's in the revisions interface, it's actually going to show you the preview of what has changed. So that's pretty cool. The client-side media processing, this is where, somebody uploads an image, and then, normally now the server crunches out all the things. What they were trying to do was have that initial resizing done in the browser, but they had problems, so they've pushed that back to WordPress 7.1. So that is not something that's going to be included in WordPress 7. Real-time collaboration, the first iteration of that is going to be present in WordPress 7, but it is opt-in only. So it's not going to be on by default. It does only work in the block editor. So if you use page builders like I do, it's not really going to be helpful. But there is a WP config constant, WP allow collaboration equals true, that you can put in your WP config to unlock the collaboration mode that's going to be in core WordPress. So I think that's a really smart way to do it, to be honest, because that's a pretty significant change. And I'm not sure I just want it on for all of our sites right away. There is a new command palette that you can get to with Command K or Control K. It's going to be a lot more useful than it is now. And finally, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, the WordPress admin dashboard is getting a subtle refresh. It just makes things feel a little crisper, and it does move a little faster. So that's pretty good. So all that's coming on April the 9th. Mark your calendars and don't upgrade. If I was you, I would not upgrade until some other folks have had the chance to try it out. All righty. This is great news that was just dropped this week. We here at hosting.com have launched an AI application hosting platform. So on March 24th, this rolled out. This is something that Ben Gabler, the founder of Rocket.net, has been working on. It's really amazing. It's built on Cloudflare Enterprise architecture, so it's very similar in that way to the Rocket.net platform. But basically, you'll be able to connect and build. This is not a WordPress solution, by the way. This is using a solution called Nova, which is it's essentially like a vibe coding app by Web Pros, which is the company behind cPanel and many of the other big web properties that are out there. Nova is their website vibe coding tool, and so that's going to be enabled on it. You can also connect IDEs like Cursor or Windsurf and just push things straight there. So it's an AI-first platform. It can host websites, web apps, really cool, and it's not terribly expensive. So if you're thinking AI and you're looking at building AI tools, this is an excellent thing to take a look at. You can check out the blog, or you can just go to hosting.com and you will see right here in the menu, AI application hosting, and you can read all about it there. I'm sure you'll be hearing more from us about that here at Agency Success as the days go forward. So pretty neat. Give it a quick read. Interesting stuff. All right. Here is an interesting little tool that folks are starting to talk about. It is called Millicache by MilliPress. And this is a page cache for WordPress. It is open source, free, that you can use for your website. Now, why would you want, why another cache? Well, Millicache does something that most other WordPress page caches don't do, and that is it's using Redis for one thing, and it'll deliver full HTML responses to a user's request before WordPress even has to load. So it's a different approach to caching. It is very, very intelligent. Also, whenever you update a WordPress page or post or whatever, it only clears the cache for that page or for any other pages that are tied to it, like archive pages and so forth, where that post might appear. So it intelligently just clears a portion of the cache, which especially for a high traffic site is really, really important. Now, what I'll tell you is if you are using hosting.com's virtual private servers or virtual dedicated servers with a Lightspeed server, you don't need to use this because actually Lightspeed, just out of the box, even not using the Lightspeed WordPress plugin, the built-in caching that Lightspeed server offers is better than this. So if you're on hosting.com stuff, you don't need to use this. But if you're not, or if you're in some sort of hosting environment where you just have Apache or Nginx or something like that, this is a great upgrade for you, most likely. Obviously, you want to test it and, so forth. But if you pair this caching plugin with an optimizer like PerfMatters or something like that, that does code optimization, that can really be a solid combination for you if you're not on a high quality Lightspeed server like hosting.com offers. So Just saw that today, got intrigued by it, and thought you might be interested. So just put that one in your back pocket if it might help you. All right, here's another tool that I just heard about. Now, Automatic, probably a couple of years ago, I think, question mark, something like that, acquired a company called Mesh, which is, it was sort of like it was really not well defined, but they've re orchestrated the whole thing, and they have, they bought a company called Clay, and they have relaunched it as Mesh, me.sh. Now, this is a really interesting tool. Their promise is every relationship remembered. So Mesh brings together everyone you've ever met, automatically organized, intelligently searchable, always up to date. So it's like an intelligent, working behind the scenes to help you make connections, CRM like tool. So it kind of it looks at your email, your calendar, meetings to kind of build for you a much smarter contacts list that helps you see connections with people. And what's more, this is the amazing thing. For if you have less than 1,000 contacts, it's free. This is pretty darn cool. So I would recommend taking a peek at this. Um, I'm intrigued. I just found this actually today, and I remembered Automatic acquiring Clay. And so this is something I haven't had time to play with personally yet, but it's something that's on my list, in my try things out list to get into pretty soon. So what they say is Mesh can help you stay on top of your network without manually maintaining a CRM. So it's doing all the piecing together and data entry and so forth. So, and like Paul is saying, yeah, it's the risk reward if you're giving access to your contact list and so forth. But that's the way it is today, right? Now, I will say, think what you will about Automatic, but they're pretty good on privacy. They really are. So I'm not overly concerned about this stealing my information, but yeah, I think it's a really interesting tool that might deserve a look. All right. This is an interesting one. I think I barely mentioned this a few weeks ago, but WordPress has started rotating what they've called featured plugins. And let me just go to wordpress.org/plugins. And maybe you've noticed this. It's at the homepage of wordpress.org plugins. And they have this new, like the opening page of the plugin is what they call featured plugins. And look, this is different than it used to be because the plugins that used to make the plugins homepage were ones with like 1 million installs, the most popular plugins. These are 300 installations. I mean, here's Equalized Digital Accessibility Checker. That's a pretty big footprint. But there's these other ones that are, they're kind of like, here's some things you might want to take a look at. And I really like this. It's what we tried to do for years with our plugin roundup when I was doing those with another company. So it's not sponsored. These are kind of curated from the plugins team, interesting plugins that are worth taking a look at. And the person who was behind the original initiative for this says that the first cohort of featured plugins generated 26,000 new installs, or a 600+% increase from where those plugins were before. The Ollie menu designer, for instance, went from 466 installs to over 11,000, which is pretty cool. So it's just helping these interesting niche, low installation footprint plugins that you may have never heard of get a little recognition. And so I'm really, really happy about that. And so if you haven't taken a look at some of the things that are here, do that. And this will rotate from time to time. You can even click here to see all featured plugins, and they'll put everything on a screen there. Now, it's just a small group, and they do rotate these out from time to time. So I think this was a great idea. I've always been a fan of discovering those secret plugins that are hiding there in the WordPress plugin directory. And on that note, I am thrilled to announce, again, we've talked about this before, but I'm thrilled to say that Plugin Roundup is coming back to hosting.com starting on April the 7th. Now, it will be a quarterly plugin roundup, not a monthly plugin roundup, but every quarter we'll take a look at the previous 3 months of interesting plugins. I've got quite a list already. And some of these are immediately usable for your use case. Other ones are fairly niche plugins that you might just want to know about in case that comes up. We used to call those toolbox plugins. Stick it in the toolbox, and one of these days you'll have a use for it, right? So Plugin Roundup is coming back, and I'm thrilled about that. And I'm grateful that hosting.com is allowing that to happen. So you can sign up for that right on our upcoming events page. That is April the 7th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. And the last thing I'll mention here is the Rewrite Your Website live stream that was scheduled for a couple of days ago, Tuesday of this week. I had to reschedule because of a medical appointment that I couldn't change. And so I had to bump that back a week. I'm sorry for the change. I know a lot of you were looking forward to that, but it will be coming up Tuesday, March 31st, next Tuesday at our regular 2 p.m., 11 a.m. Pacific time. So if you haven't signed up for that one, do so. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a few volunteers here from our audience that have agreed to be guinea pigs to test this whole process. So it should be a lot of fun. Okay, if you missed the slides, I'm going to drop that in one more time to the chat. You can download this HTML document. And again, just use the arrow keys on your keyboard forward and backwards to navigate, or you can click the things down here too. I think that works. Nope, you have to use the arrow keys on your keyboard. And that is ready for you. All right, let's get into some questions, shall we? Let me close some windows here. And we'll get into our first question, which is from Melanie. There are currently 5 questions in the list. So if you have a question to ask, there'll still be space to ask it. Please use the link that is waiting on you in the chat. All right, Melanie. Oh, this is many words. Okay. So Melanie has an update on the issue she was having with that wholesale website kitchen cabinet page. Now, that goes back a few months. When was that? It was probably back in the fall, I think we talked about this. It was a really interesting situation where it was a custom cabinet company and the pages weren't loading correctly. I remember this vaguely in my mind, and maybe you do too. So she finally found the issue. It was too many product tables on a page. Interesting. So it was working correctly in staging site. Using a custom shortcode from product tables, it was calling it multiple times and it was timing out. Yeah, so it was just the page was too heavy, right? Was that basically what was going on? It was just too much. No? Okay. Let's see. It was timing out because of lazy loading and the custom shortcode was querying the products on the fly. Too many PHP sessions on the server, and so it gave up. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's just in. We don't normally run into things like this, but we also don't normally have that many database calls on a page. A lot of times Redis caching can help with that sort of thing, but it sounds like you found another option here. There's also another plugins JavaScript loading on that page. You talked to Claude in the Chrome browser, and it used the console to diagnose the admin Ajax issue. Yeah, very cool. So Claude helped you in the browser to solve this problem. And I'll tell you, if you've not ever done that, folks, using the Claude, if you're a Claude person, I am now pretty much exclusively a Claude person. Claude has a Chrome extension that will let it just see right in your browser and take control and do things. And I find it, I mean, it is absolutely, I can't not use it now. It is critical to my workflow. So that helped Melanie look at Melanie probably even looked at the console and saw errors and those sorts of things. And so it helped you work through the issue to create a custom snippet to make the JavaScript only load on product categories and pages that need options. Amazing. So all of those things, and it works. So let's look at the demo. My goodness. Yeah, there's so many things. Yeah, you made the server cry, Melanie, with all of this, all of these database fetches. Holy cow, we're not even halfway down yet. Okay, yeah, no wonder. It looks great. It looks great. So congratulations. That was a big deal and likely quite an ordeal to fix. So good job. Interesting. And so this is let me just take a little detour here on a small soapbox. And that is, there's a lot of fear about AI right now. And I agree. AI is, there was that New York Times article that came out that showed the industries that are going to be most affected by AI, and web developers is at the top of the list. And yeah, totally get it. Um, so we have to use AI. Like we have to learn how to use AI, make that part of our workflow. And over time, folks, what we're delivering to our clients may be AI solutions and not us building things in WordPress or another platform. That is the way the world is going. And yeah, we have to get on board. We can't hide our head in the sand. It is one more thing we have to learn. And I understand how difficult that can be, particularly with all the things that we deal with day to day as agency owners. But just one project at a time, one problem at a time. And I'll just pause for this. This is a good segue into something I was thinking about talking about anyway. And that is a perfect example to this kind of solution. It's just starting to think AI first. Okay. Earlier this week, I have a family friend who's also a client, which that can be complicated, but that's actually worked out really well here. We have a couple of his websites. He's a custom app developer. Doesn't want to manage websites, wants to do his thing. Great. So we've been helping him over the years. And he was using, I'm not going to say which hosting company, another hosting company for his domain management. It probably isn't the one you're thinking of, the common one. It's not that one. It's another one. And it's a company that, for whatever reason, doesn't allow the exporting of DNS files. Now, there are very few things that annoy me more these days than companies who don't allow, like it's there, just export it, right? But they want to keep you locked into their system. So my friend's request, backing up a minute, was he wants to migrate 30 plus domains from this other web hosting company that also sells domains into Cloudflare. Because they've come to love Cloudflare based on their interaction with it as we use it for their website. So, how do you get 30 plus domains out of a registrar that doesn't allow DNS exports? And the answer is not easily, right? Like, what do you do? Does that mean I've got to go manually verify 30 plus DNS records, all the things, and see which ones the Cloudflare scrape missed? That just doesn't sound like any fun, right? Well, in conversating with my AI tool, I discovered that this hosting company, while they don't allow a button to download the record, they do offer access to the DNS records with their API. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, for years, API was something other people did. Like that's what actually true capital D developers work with. And I'm not that. I'm more of an assembler. I know enough code to, for self-defense, but I would never write something to do an API call, but I don't have to. All I have to do is talk to my AI friend and let him do the work, right? Or her. And so we created a basically with an API key from this host, we created a little script that ran locally in an instance of Claude Code, and it pulled down all the records from all 30 plus domains out of this registrar into a single file. Yes, I gave it the API key, but about 5 minutes later, I deleted the API key. So I wasn't worried about security in this case. And I've got all the records right there, ready to go. Now, even better than that, what we'll do later this afternoon is the AI tool has written a script that, again, with a Cloudflare API key, will push all the domains into Cloudflare as a transfer request. We've given it in a Google Sheet the authorization codes for the transfer, and it's just going to push them all in. And so that thing that would have taken hours and hours and hours and had the potential for typos and miscopies or whatever, we're going to do it in, probably all total about a little over an hour of time. And it's going to be done in an automated fashion. And that just blows me away. And the thing is, it wasn't that hard. Now I realize it's like using the word just. I just told AI to do it. I mean, I kind of had to think about and know what to ask and that sort of thing. But this is something that we would have had to do manually or hire it out or whatever. And it would have taken forever, or we would have had to, bite the bullet and do grunt work, which I hate. But this is something AI allowed us to do. So it's a double-edged sword, folks. Like it is, it is absolutely a threat to our industry and the way we've been doing things. But honestly, it's a threat much in the way of WordPress was a threat when I was focused on building Dreamweaver websites back in the day. It's another pivot. And so it's really, I got to be honest, as I'm using AI to do these things, I am more excited about my work than I have been in a very long time. Um, it feels almost like the days when I discovered the internet and realized we could publish websites and things like that. It's a completely new thing that opens all sorts of potential that I didn't have before. And so I hope that that's the way you kind of look at it as well. And you're exploring what AI can do and what it can bring to really level up your ability to help your clients. Anyway, soapbox concluded. Does that make sense at all? We just got to think AI first, right? Like, how can AI solve this problem? And it's amazing the things we can do. All right, next question is Stacy. Hey, Stacy. What is the URL of the webinar you did showing us how to customize cPanel? Okay, Stacy, that is that the live stream was called the Hosting Blueprint. So if you go to replays.myagencysuccess.com, you'll find the playlist. And is there a way to search? Just scroll down. I don't know. There's maybe a way to do this. It's back in the fall, and it was called the Hosting Blueprint. Somewhere. That's a year ago. I don't know. It's in here somewhere. Let's see if we can find it. There it is, right there. Hosting Blueprint. So there is the video, and you can also find at downloads. Hey, there's me. Downloads.myagencysuccess.com is a shortcut to this Google Drive. And if you sort by name, that'll make it easier. But it's the Hosting Blueprint. Let's see. Where is it? Agency Success Hosting Blueprint. There it is, right there at the top. So you can grab the PDF for it where I gave you all the things. So just a good example of how you can go back and find what you're looking for. Everything's in a YouTube playlist, and all the downloads, at least for my stuff, is here in this Google Drive. There's also all the chat logs here. Most of the chat logs are here as well. All right. Stacy, does that get you what you're looking for? It's down, Stacy, the URL for the Google Drive is downloads.myagencysuccess.com. And that'll take you to the Google Drive. Downloads.myagencysuccess.com. That is in the link bundle, which I share periodically here. So it's there in the chat as well. All of those links are waiting on you. Okay, 3 questions in the queue. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please use the link that is there in the chat. We probably have plenty of time for more questions today. All right, Jamie is next. Hey, Jamie. Paul, yes. The tool that I had major problems with doing my text macros is now working. Yes, so Type Desk is working again, and I am delighted. Okay, Jamie. I am using ACF Pro for an author client and created a custom post type called books for, books. Yeah. With taxonomies and field groups. Good. Randomly, I pop into the site and the book CPT is duplicated as a draft. When I delete the draft custom post type, the URL to the book's archive page redirects to the static books page. Okay. I've been exporting the custom post type JSON file periodically to give Claude Replit for coding help and wondering if that is what's happening. Well, we have just descended into weirdness for the first time today. Jamie, that's really interesting. Why would a custom post type be duplicated as a draft? And it was the whole custom post type, right? Not a post in the custom post type. Yeah, I don't think this JSON export is related to anything here. That is really weird. Now, like, what's even the curious part is the static books page. Let me ask you this, Jamie: is the slug for the custom post type? Is it books or book? It's books. And is the what's the permalink for the books page? Is it also books? Okay, because that's going to be a problem. Just immediately out of the gate, that's going to be a problem unless this is not work like it's not connected to the duplication issue. Oh, the static slug for the page. Is that what you're saying? The static slug for the page is this. Is that correct? Okay, then you're fine. Like if you have a page, and some of you have probably run across this before. If you have a custom post type slug that bumps with a page slug of the same name, it's going to cause problems. And you're going to have fights back and forth between the custom post type archive and the page. That is not our issue. Um, why? And the question is, why would an ACF custom post type have a draft? Like the whole post type is drafted, right? Are you are you doing any sort of backup restoration in this process or importing posts or anything like that between these cycles? You're saying when you say, yeah, oh, you created backups and restore. Okay. I wonder if that's triggering some kind of problem. So it's a hosting level backup, you're saying? So you create backups, you say in the hosting.com UI, and you're restoring them. Is that after the draft custom post type appears, or you're doing that to solve the problem? So the draft appears, and then you restore a backup, and then later on it appears again. Is that right? Well, first one of these we've had in a while, but it's going to be Gremlins. Um, that is really, really weird. All right, out to the hive mind. Anybody out there have an idea of what in the world could be causing this? Because that is just bizarre. Uh, Jamie, do you have any custom code anywhere that did you create the custom post type in the ACF UI, or uh, did you use custom code to create the custom post type? You said you created an ACF, but stupid grok. Tell me more. in ACF, but did you create it with code? Like, is okay? This is your problem. This is your problem. So if that code that I guarantee you, Jamie, if you remove that code, I bet you anything the duplication stops. Because probably what's happening is the code, part of that code is create this custom post type. So take that code and run it through a different AI tool that's not Grok. Um, and I bet you it's and describe the situation. And I bet you there's something in that custom code block that is trying to create this custom post type again. And since the slug is already taken, it's making it as a draft. I bet you that's what's going on. And I still say it's gremlins, but it's grok gremlins, which are worse. It's like the level up of a gremlin. Not a fan of grok. Yeah, there you go. It is a mess. And so AI is awesome, but also beware of gifts that AI gives. Yeah. So take that code, run it through a different AI tool, and tell it you don't need it to be created anymore. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, because see that function, I bet like the function is running every time the site is accessed, which makes sense. Like you restore it and then you click around a minute and the function is run again and tried to duplicate the thing. Now it's weird that it isn't making a duplicate every time. But yeah, that's what's going on. I just about guarantee you that's what's going on. So try that, report back, and we'll all blame Grok together. Oh my. Okay. Well, thank you for that one, Jamie. That was we'll go with fun. How about that? Is fun fair? All right, everybody. If you have a question to ask, use the link in the chat. Next up is Awesome Paul. Hello, Paul. Okay. Brain dead or not enough coffee at 2 p.m. I mean, either one's possible, right? So in Cadence, a paragraph block. How come I can't find how to change the font for that one block? Okay. Paul, is it the Cadence? So Cadence doesn't have a paragraph block. It has advanced text. Is it the advanced text block? Okay, so it's the core paragraph block. All right. So what you're going to do is, let's see. Yeah, I don't think you can change the font in the block editor. No, because it's just going to pull from whatever you've defined in the customizer. So what you do to change it is you click this and change it to advanced text, and then you can change your font right there. All right. So this is the cadence. There is also a cadence setting. It's going to take me a second to look for this. Let's see. Is it here? No, it's under cadence and settings. Let's see. Sue is saying it's under appearance. Now, what I'm looking for is there is a setting in Cadence that says use the Cadence advanced text block instead of the default Gutenberg paragraph block. Y'all know what I'm talking about? It'll do it automatically. Like it's like when by default when you click in a okay, so Sue is saying click the three stat dots in the element and show the type options. This Cadence block controls. Go to preferences. Okay, everybody's this is like the live stream version of backseat driving. Okay, I have many instructions in the chat. So preferences, I know it's here somewhere. Blocks? No. Okay, I have conflicting top right corner, go to preferences or defaults. You had it, it's under the kebab for cadence block controls. I thought so. No, I just turned it off. Okay, it's in here somewhere. Default edit, there it is, right there. Boom. That one. See, this is this is why like sometimes the downside of using a base site or a starter site is that I made this setting one time a million years ago in our starter site and I never made it again because this is what I want. And so I forgot where the setting was located. There it is. So that's what you want to do. If you're using cadence blocks, and for those of you using generate blocks, is there something similar? I bet there is. But this way you get a text block with many, many more options that gives you a lot of control over all the things. So there you go. Oh, Paul. I look, man, like I knew it was there and couldn't find it. So don't worry about it. All righty. Next up, is Sherry. And again, down to 2 questions. So if you've got a question to ask, use the link in the chat. Hey, Sherry. All right. This is the DMARC question she warned us about in the pre-show. So here we go. I've been trying to troubleshoot my DMARC settings. That'll take years off your life. This is the current recently updated SPF record, blah, 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 many things. So I had to re-verify Zoho, and it's been about 36 hours. I just got the DMARC XML file that showed up from Yahoo. ChatGPT thinks that this could still be from prior fixing and re-verification. I have a client who cannot send me email from their domain anymore, hence all the updates. He's the only one that is not getting through that I know of. They use Google Workspace. Okay, so if your client is not getting through to your mail, the issue is not on your DMARC. It's on their DMARC. Is this their DMARC that we're talking about here? Or have you been changing your DMARC? Okay, so your DMARC, yeah, it's not your fault. They have improperly configured their Google Workspace. And what I've seen the most of, it's like somebody set up Google Workspace in the ancient of days, millions of years ago for them when it first came out. And back then it didn't require all the DKIM and all of that stuff. Or it could even be, Sherry, that when somebody set up their DMARC record, they did the P equals none, and that doesn't pass anymore. The P equals quarantine in the DMARC record is the default now. It's what you need. So, and I'll let Stacy, DMARC Stacy. We got awesome Paul. We can have DMARC Stacy here. So Stacy Clemens can, she's more of an expert on this than I am for sure, but it's on them. It's their deliverability. It's not your problem. So they have improperly, I mean, think about it this way. Your email box is just sitting there minding its own business, protecting you from spam, and they send you an email. Their email is not properly authenticated. And what that means is other people are also probably not getting their email, not just you. And so it's probably a very, like a lot of their emails aren't getting through, especially to new people that they're trying to email. So this is a bigger problem that you could either try to take on yourself or refer them to an IT person, or maybe Stacy. Yep. So like Melanie is saying, Outlook and Workspace, but you're on Zoho. They're probably the same. Zoho's a pretty darn good outfit, by the way. They've got a nice suite of tools. They probably want P equals quarantine at a minimum, or they're going to reject the email. Okay, so Sherry's saying they get daemon messages yeah. So that email message they get back will tell them what the problem is. And if they send that to you, you can probably see, oh, it's like there's an alignment issue with DKIM and whatever. It'll tell you what it is, most likely. And that way they need to get that fixed, because it's not just your email is being picky, Sherry. It's that their email is not properly authenticated. And it's not just you it's impacting. There are other people that aren't getting their emails. All righty. Yes. It's always good to blame the client, right? Like, it doesn't get to happen much, but I'm just kidding. Okay, down to the last question of the day. So if you have a question, ask it now. Alvin is next. Oh, yes. I was just reading about this today, Alvin. Has anyone tried the Mosaic Builder? It's the same company that built Smart Slider 3. And it's another page builder. Yes. And you might ask yourself, why in the world would somebody build another page builder today? Like, do we not have enough page builders in WordPress? And so I love Jamie's response. Yes, I was not a Smart Slider fan. However, like, this looks pretty well thought out, y'all. I'm going to post this in the chat. I mean, you should at least just be aware of it. I am not recommending it. I don't see any compelling business reason to move to any other page builder right now. I don't care what it is. But it looks interesting. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, honestly, when Chris from my team took a look at this and sent it to me, he said, this looks kind of like what Gutenberg was supposed to be. Because it is a very WordPressy looking interface. They do a lot with animation. Anyway, clearly a lot with animation. but they give you a timeline. Like that's really cool. I like that a lot. Where you can granularly control things. Anyway, it's interesting and it's also not terribly expensive. 199 the lifetime right now. I'm not suggesting that you spend money like at all, but it is interesting. The cool thing here is free for the first year. So you could actually, like, you probably have to give them the payment method, but you could actually try this and see what you think. Um, but you'd have to have a compelling business reason to convince me it was necessary to find a new builder. I don't know. Does look interesting though. So am I speaking out of both sides of my mouth? Sort of. I guess I am. All right. Let's see. Question from Doug has just come in. So Doug, let's see. Ooh. Hmm. Doug's question is, can you show me your process from managing stuff in your GitHub? How are you organizing, sync your Claude Git skills and code? That is not something I can show on this live stream because it's not something I'm ready to show publicly yet. But it's not complicated. Like, it's really not. Yeah, it's a little like I haven't decided what of this is proprietary and what I want to share yet. And I'm also not 100% sure I like my process. I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not ready to say everybody ought to do this. So it's really simple. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. There are tools that can make this not very hard. I guess that's fair. So you want to install GitHub Desktop. So GitHub has a desktop application for Mac and PC and Linux. It lives on your desktop, and basically it connects to your GitHub account. And so it's aware of your repositories. You grant it access to a local folder on your computer, and it'll just sync stuff. And you can see changes and all that right there in GitHub Desktop. So it makes it pretty easy. So what I've started doing, just like big picture, is to help solve the memory problem with AI tools. And actually, I'll be showing a little bit of this part of it on Tuesday when we do the rewrite your website live stream, because what we're going to be creating in that live stream is a series of markdown files, because markdown documents allow AI to document things that you learn along the way. And then if you are collaborating with people, you just dump those documents over in your GitHub folder in the folder of the repo you set up, and it'll just keep them in sync. And the cooler thing is, if you're using Claude Code can actually do all the pushing for you. So we've got that whole workflow set up that as we're working on something, I can just say, push this up, and it just pushes up what we've worked on into the GitHub repo because it has all those credentials already. So that's the very high level short answer. Is that helpful at all, Doug? I'll be showing the logic behind the document, the markdown document, next Tuesday in the rewrite your website. But that's kind of the big picture of how I'm doing things in the flow. And honestly, GitHub is not super necessary if you're not collaborating with somebody else. Like I've got one other team member primarily who is using the same flow. And so we can share things with a GitHub repo. It can help for version tracking, but honestly, I've never gone backwards in a version of these markdown documents or other information. So it could be helpful if you want to rewind a little bit, but okay. Is that helpful, Doug? Does that get you at least a little bit of what you're looking for? Billy says, working with local Git right now and building a site in Astro. Y'all, Astro, not Astra, but Astro is a web platform, like language tools, whatever. Static site generator, and it is really, really, really cool. What you might experiment with, Billy, is just pushing that out to Cloudflare pages and host it. Cloudflare can host that static site, and you might be just absolutely blown away with how amazing it is. If you want, you can also use the new hosting.com AI hosting for that as well. And it's built on Cloudflare Enterprise, so you get better everything. and it's just not that expensive. Um, this new hosting.com service. Okie dokie. Wow, we went a long way today. Any last questions? Let me just check the list one more time here. No more questions. What else do you want to talk about? We've got 5 minutes together. I'm really looking forward to the live stream on Tuesday as we talk about rewriting your website. As I mentioned, I'm going to give you a process for, and it's actually going to be documented in a series of markdown documents that you'll get the links to download those on the live stream, and they will help you generate a voice profile, and they will help you work through the whole rewriting process of your website. Should be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Oh, Paul is a good update. Paul was able to get that domain back for a client that they thought was lost. That's a win, because that sounded like a hopeless situation to me. Gene wants to know if I have any thoughts on the Meta Google news. Yeah, so if you missed that yesterday-ish, the jury, where was it? I forget where. Let's see. As Los Angeles County Superior Court, the jury found Meta and Google negligent in social media harms trial. That it's going to be interesting to see what actual effects that has. But there does seem to be a weight of evidence of how social media can really affect a younger brain. Sue, the thing that I wanted to show that I was working on, I talked through it earlier, just the process of using an AI tool to migrate those the DNS records away. Yeah. All right, everybody. Many things. There will always be something for us to have to learn and be aware of and whatever. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? So I am grateful that you've decided to spend an hour hanging out with me for office hours. I hope it's been beneficial to you, and it's thought about some things that have scratched your brain just a little bit. Put a rock in your shoe to think about. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about rewriting your website. We'll have some guinea pigs who have graciously volunteered to test that process on their website. So I'm really happy about that. We'll get to at least one of those, maybe more, depending on how time goes. And it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be very workshop-y, very live. And so I love those. It should be a lot of fun together. So that's coming up Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, or wherever that time works out for you, wherever you are. Hope you have a great weekend. I hope you do no work at all and you enjoy some time with family and friends and get to do something you like. I will see you back here on Tuesday, here on Hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.